different things that you can make with your noodles. You can make people or animals, and here are some different examples showing how you might attach them together before you attach the clothing. When you first get your felt noodles, you will cut them apart and decide how to sew them together and what color of thread to use that will not show. First, you need to cut your thread and then thread your needle by putting the thread through the eye and tying a knot using both threads together at the opposite end of the thread from the needle. Do not tie your knot next to the needle. Then you will decide how to sew your pieces together to make them stay how you want them to be. In this example, I'm sewing together the felt noodle in the middle to make them stay like the legs for the person. You need to make sure to loop through to tie your knot before you cut your thread. Always make sure to have your knot at the opposite end of the needle. I sewed the body together to create the arms and the neck, or you could also do it that way to make the head. And then in this case, I'm attaching a circle to make the head of the person. When you are finished sewing, you need to make sure and knot it by looping through the thread. To make the hair, I'm using yarn and looping it around my fingers, tying it in the middle with a piece of the same color of yarn, and then snipping the edges to create the hair and sewing it onto the top of the head. To make longer hair, you need to make the loops longer and then tie it just on one side and cut just the other side. You can do the same thing making smaller loops to make short hair. Make sure your knot is on the opposite side of the thread from your needle, and you can loop through the little space of the thread to make sure it doesn't pull through and make it more secure. When adding beads, make sure that your needle is the right size for your beads, or like you see here, it will not fit. To make a dress, you're going to make sure you have your thread ready by having the knot tied at the opposite end of the needle, tying both pieces of thread together, and you can cut off your little tail. You'll take your fabric and fold it in half, and you're going to do a little bit of cutting to make it like a tank dress, and cutting a diagonal on the top can be where it goes around the neck. Making sure to have it the right size to fit your felt person or animal. If you have printed fabric, you'll want to sew it inside out. So I'm poking through both pieces of fabric, and they are the right side faced together, and doing what is called a loop stitch along the edge to make the seam that when it's turned right side out, you will not be able to see. Once you have your seam shown, you can turn it right side out and put your clothing onto your person. In this case, I will slide it on to the person, and then you can either sew or tie the other part around the neck. To make pants that actually fit on the person, you're going to want to make the fabric the right size for your felt person and just make one slit partway in the middle. Each of those will wrap around to make the legs, so you only have the inseam to sew. If your fabric is the same on both sides, then you don't have to do it right sides together. And I'm doing another loop stitch to sew the inseam of both legs for the pants. To make the shirt, you will fold your fabric in quarters, and then on one end cut out a long skinny rectangle like for under the arms, and cut a little diagonal so that you have a place for the neck. There are two examples of the shirts. On the red, white, and blue one, I'm putting the fabric right side together to sew the seams and going through that extra loop of the thread to make sure that it stays and doesn't pull out. Make sure that you just sew on the part that needs to be sewn, along the sides and under the arm. If you sew all the way to the top, then your arm will not be able to fit through the sleeve. Once you have the shirt sewn, you can turn it right side out, which sometimes is a little bit tricky, and then put the shirt onto your person. You can also do this creatively if you chose to make an animal. Here I am sewing the back side of the pants closed. You can actually sew them to the person or animal so that they don't fall off, but make sure to always double knot twice before cutting your thread. To sew the mouth, I'm going to use a different color thread than the felt, and I'm poking it through the back of the head and then making sure to go through the extra loop of the thread to make it knot and not pull through. And I'm simply making little running stitches to create a line for the mouth.